Hello and welcome everyone, I'm Madals and today I have got game number 1 of a best of 1, and those of you who tuned in yesterday or tune in frequently may notice my voice is still not better. I cast a lot at the ESET UK Master Season 2 finals. It was Jorisar and I, and we boss moded it all the way through, and therefore I'm suffering a bit this week, but because I love you guys, I don't want you to miss a day of StarCraft action. I'm still uploading, and I'm still trying to cast the game, so if my voice dies completely, or it cracks or anything like that, I'd be much appreciative of you not flaming me in the comments section, because hopefully it will heal up soon. I've got to be relatively gentle with it to try and aid the recovery, so if it's a little bit monotone, I apologise for that, but hopefully it's bearable to listen to. Now, anyway, let me introduce these two players. Up in the top left position, he is a winner of DreamHack. He's from my Insanity. It is Stardust. And his opponent down in the bottom right, the blue Terran player, he represents Team Evil Geniuses. It is Xeno. So nice little bit of PvT coming up here, and I'm really interested to see how these two are going to open. Of course, Stardust, very cool player. I actually spent a lot of time with his team captain, Penguin, over the weekend, because he was over at the Season 2 Finals VSET, boss moding it up. And generally it was actually a really ace tournament. But yeah, Reactor Barracks Refinery coming down here from Xeno. Meanwhile, for Stardust. God, my brain is just dying too, apparently. Stardust getting down that gateway and his Assimilator too. So, both players opening relatively similar. Will be interesting to see whether Xeno gets down a Reactor on this Barracks, whether he goes for the Reaper early on, or whether it's just a 1-rack CC. Judging by the gas timing, I'm expecting to see a Reaper come out, maybe come and poke and prod a little bit. It's a nice opening to go for, especially if Stardust delays his Mothership core, doesn't get down a Stalker super quickly. You can do quite a lot of damage with just one Reaper, and there we go, it is coming out here, and then it should be followed up by a relatively early command center at the natural. But Xeno is moving out with this SCV, so considering the fact that the Reaper would get the scouts out relatively quickly, I'll be interested to see what this is going to do. Will there be a bunker or anything thrown down? A lot of aggression early game. We'll have to keep an eye out for it. It's also worth noting, are we going to be seeing a second Reaper coming out? Probably not, because, well, actually no, there may be. There's 50 gas exactly in the bank, so Xeno does have enough to start one up, but has then pulled gas straight afterwards. So will we see a second one? Gotta keep an eye on it. The first Reaper coming out, no, it's going to be a Reactor following this straight up. So good control here. The scout from the SCV will see that the natural is being taken by Stardust, and it also comes in to confirm that there's one gas, 3 probes in there, chrono boosting the Mothership core out, everything really going to plan. Meanwhile, back at home, well, we can see that Xeno is getting up his command center. The Reactor should be done any second, and these two really going for an incredibly standard opening. The only trouble for Stardust is he's going to have to use this Mothership core to try and force back the Reaper, and it's not the best thing to try and force away that Reaper, because ideally a Stalker is the best thing. It can just regenerate health and get away quite easily. It can just take a couple of pot shots at this Nexus, but in all honesty, it really won't do anything. There's just not enough DPS output from that to be worthwhile. Now this is really cool coming down here from Xeno. Notice he's getting the engineering bay very early on. A lot of Terran players are doing this in TVP currently, where they'll get down +1 before they even bother starting stim or anything like that, because you've got a couple of Marines out, and with +1 they're very good defensively, especially in bunkers. They can also push out and make some nice little timings happen. It's very awkward for Hotels players to be able to deal with that. But meanwhile, we do see that Stardust just getting down that robotic facility. He isn't going to be trying to go for anything too crazy, too rushed, just teching up, really playing as economically and text focused as he can. But then so is Xeno, actually. He's not doing anything too crazy either. So second barracks getting started up. +1, there we go, is on its way. So that's going to be finished up nice and early. Super quick +1 there. The Stalker forcing back this poor little Reaper. All he wanted to do was come and shoot at an Nexus for a while, and as we can see, he didn't really achieve much, just knocking off about 150 worth of shield energy. So nothing really to ride home to the parents about and be like, guess what? I was a good little Reaper today, I killed a Nexus. No, none of that sort of shenanigans or good things like that. Third barracks coming down though for Xeno. He's going to be able to pump out quite a few Marines. With that +1, of course, he is going to be really quite happy about that, because he's going to get a big DPS boost from the Marines +1 upgrade. The Forge for Stardust is on its way, and notice that if we take a look at Stardust's vision, he hasn't scouted at all. No idea what's coming down here. All he knows is that there was one Reaper. Not two, one. Probably going to be a Reaper expand. Really, Stardust can assume most of that, but he's still being careful, keeping a single Stalker up here in case of any drops that could be coming down, making sure that he's well defended, and now getting out that observer, ready to get some scouting information of his own. One Reaper, though, is going to try and make it up into the main base, going to sacrifice himself to confirm that, yes, there was a robotic facility there. Very important scout, because this gives a lot of information to Xeno about exactly what Stardust is planning, so we can create an army composition that's hopefully going to be good to deal with that. These Marines, for example, they're looking out for a Warp Prism now, not an Oracle, not a Void Ray or Phoenix. And that's why most of them are getting pulled down, because he's like, well, if you're getting that down, you're probably not going to be able to hurt me quite yet. Stim only just started, +1, nearly finished though. Is there an armory coming down? No, there isn't. It's instead just going to be a starport as well as that reactor. The observer, though, is making its way in. Going to know the timing of that starport, know the timing of Stim, or that Stim's still being researched. And did Stardust see it? No, he hasn't seen the engineering bay. That is actually quite important. He knows the expansion town because he sees the mules getting called, but doesn't yet know about that +1. And that's a really important thing to try and scout out, because unless he clicked on a unit, that's the only other thing that could have been done. He could have clicked on something and seen the +1 is now done. But I just don't know if Stardust has. I don't believe he has done so. So that isn't the best thing for Stardust at the moment, but he has got his own +1 ground armor already 2/3 to 3/4 finished, and is chrono boosting it out too, so we'll be able to catch up. Combat shield and Stim should finish up near simultaneously, and with a lot of Marines on the field, we could be getting a nice little timing out, especially when these first two medevacs hit, and that would be a really strong timing for Xeno to try and push out on, and that is exactly what he's doing. We can see the Marines starting to move forward, a good number of them as well here. Gonna just try and get a nice little bit of damage down. Only a couple of Stalkers back at home in order to defend. The Twilight Council's there already. The Robotics Bay is done. The first Colossus on its way out, but what's coming down from the Twilight Council? It's going to be Blink. That also means the +2 can get started as soon as +1 is done, which is right about now. I really hope to see that Stardust does keep pumping that out, because as we see, +1 armor is on its way down here for Xeno, but for the moment, Stardust, there we go, +1 is on its way. So with Chrono Boost, he should be able to keep up, if not slightly overtake the upgrade lead that Xeno is trying to get. And Xeno now is moving in, but upgrades exactly equal. The Colossus, though, does not have extended thermal lance, but with only Marines here, that may not be the easiest thing in the world for him to try and break. So, gonna retreat back. Wise move here by Xeno, because he doesn't really want to try and take a fight that he can't necessarily win, especially with that Colossus down. It'd be very tough. If there was a couple of Marauders in this position, he could push straight in, but Stardust is going to go for it, and he will get a couple of Marine kills here. But now 2 Marauders at the back. They're pushing in. Combat shield, +1 and Stim all done. Only 2 medevacs though. Got to be a little bit careful. Stardust will not be able to secure up a third base, whereas Xeno has already got his on the way. That probe there is getting taken out. There's a small group of units here, but not really enough to worry about. Meanwhile, Stardust though is going to have to deal with a couple more Marauders in this composition soon, and considering that Extended Thermal Lance has only just been started, there's actually quite a big window of possibility that Xeno can try and move in against. That's why Fold Nova Charge was triggered, but it's now gone. No more. There is enough energy for another one, but of course Stardust doesn't really want to do too much Fold Nova Charging unless he absolutely has to, and with these 2 Colossi out, thinking actually I should be fine. I can push him back with that. Extended Thermal Lance might not be done. It's still a long way away, but actually just 2 Colossi with gateway support is enough to scare this down. The armory is on its way. The 2 Vikings also being pumped out, ready to start helping Xeno deal with that. The 3rd command center already 3/4 finished, and when we think that the 3rd base for Stardust is only just being taken, I'd say economically we're looking at a very good spot for Xeno, who's 1 SCV up plus 2 mules already, soon to be 3 mules. That means that he's in a good stead in terms of his income. We can see that being really reflected here, mining around 500-600 more minerals a minute equal gas, but those minerals are allowing so many more Marines to get pumped out and really just to get in a solid spot. The 3rd Colossus though has now hit the field. Extended Thermal Lance only 30 odd seconds away in game, and once that hits, it's a lot harder to deal with those Colossi. You need a decent Viking count in order to engage them, but Xeno coming out to clear those rocks to try and make sure that any force fields aren't too effective. He wants to force a cancel on that 3rd base, but big blink forward here. Was that too much of a bold step by Stardust? There's quite a few units. The Vikings are starting to work through these Colossi. The infantry getting split quite nicely. No, only a couple of Stalkers, which are starting to work down on the Vikings now, but just look at the sheer amount of infantry here. This engagement for Stardust has not been too good. He's losing a lot. Suddenly the Colossi have no support, and that means the infantry can just chase them down. Stardust, I don't know why he blinked forward there. Maybe not aware of just quite how many units there were, but even though the resources show Stardust only lost 275 more resources, I think the damage was a lot worse. Only a couple of Marines and Marauders went down there for Xeno, but for Stardust he lost 2 Colossi and a lot of units. So really not a good trade in the slightest, because the infantry is going to be flooding out now for Xeno. He can afford to lose that. He kept most of the medevacs up as well. The Viking count is a little bit low, but not disastrously, and even the Mothership Core now getting sniped off. Stardust, big tactical error and strategic error there, could be in for a little bit of problems. He's still one worker down. There's 3 mules now as well for Xeno, so he's going to be getting an absolutely sky-high mineral income. Has just taken this 5th and 6th gas, but not yet mining out of them. Stardust, what is he doing? He's adding on a couple of additional more Archons just to try and bulk up this army, trying to hold on. He's also getting +2 down. If we look at the upgrades, meanwhile for Xeno, he's busy getting down his +2 infantry attack, as well as the 2nd engineering base, so he should be able to start 3-2 very quickly. That's double upgrades compared to single upgrades of Stardust, but Stardust does have the advantage of being able to chrono boost. They're going to be very equally tied there, so it's going to come down to the army supply, it's going to come down to the positioning, and with only a single Colossus on the field, that positioning is going to be absolutely key for Stardust. He needs to trade well, because he needs a splash damage, which otherwise he is lacking. He doesn't have any form of Psionic Storm, because even though he's got the Templar Archives, he's just using those High Templars for Archons at the moment. No Storm until it's completed. It has just got started, but that means that the Colossi are really the only option. So since Archons have been seen, we know that Xeno is going to start up getting that Ghost Academy ready for the EMPs, and the snipes, of course, down on anything that there could be. Also, Xeno doing a great job of picking off observers, just scanning every time he spots the shimmer in order to take it out, and is now going to be going for a triple drop. There is a War Prism drop coming down the right hand side of the map though, and a single observer is going to see this, so straight away Stardust is going to try and pull back, but the problem is there's going to be a push coming from the other side. I don't know if anything's seen this, but it's now just a split of units. That's going to be very frustrating. 3 medevacs worth of infantry up against just some gateway units will trade very nicely in favour of Xeno. He loses 1 medevac, but he's just doing so much damage. Simultaneously, the Vikings are going to annihilate that single Colossus, so now of course they are just dead weight, but the infantry has nothing really to stop them. Xeno pushing in at the top here. More Warpins are trying to come down. The medevacs still up for the time being, and these Stalkers are getting absolutely slaughtered. The 3rd base is defended because there are a couple of Archons there. Scans going down. Xeno wants to know, okay, what have you got? Trying to focus the Nexus. Should easily be able to get that because it just isn't anything really to try and stop it. A couple of High Templar coming over. They do have Storm now. They need to really hit those Storms nicely. They do, but a lot of the infantry still staying up. The Archon is going to get taken down. The Nexus is still alive, believe it or not, and I'm amazed that Stardust hasn't tried to take that out, but he could have focused and really hurt the income, but instead just trying to deal maximum damage here. Xeno is able to force Stardust to get another wave of Warpins. This medevac out of energy, but a lot of Marauders dealing a lot of damage. That's why Zealots are getting walked in, not Stalkers, because they wouldn't trade well. The 4th CC is also now down for Xeno, so he's in a really nice spot. We've also got a decent amount of infantry sitting around here, and Stardust, as of yet, just still hasn't dealt with this, but the Archon coming up now should be able to finish all of this off, and that's going to be very, very frustrating. The medevac trying to get focused, but it shouldn't have any problems boosting away out of that. So this 4th base is going to be critical here for Xeno. If he keeps that up, he's got a monumental lead in terms of the income. Yes, he's 10 workers down, but he's got those 3 mules, so he's still going to be mining nicely. And he's trading very cost effectively. Stardust losing about 30% more resources than that of his opponent. This War Prism now warping in a couple of Zealots, but Marauders, Marines coming over. But this next warp in is going to be a lot more effective. We're going to need to see a lot more units come through. A single Ghost is going to die, and a Ghost going down to Zealots is never really what you want. The +3 till infantry weapons about to finish. We'll need the upgrades being 3-2 up against 1-3 for Stardust. So different upgrades, but big engagement coming up at the top now. EMPs hitting a lot of those Immortals. Some Storms have gone down, but this is just so much infantry. The Vikings even landing, seeing there's no Colossi. Stardust in a lot of problems. He is taking so much damage here, and there is the GG, and EG Xeno will take the game. So I hope you all enjoyed that game. If you did, make sure you like the video, leave a cool comment, and of course subscribe. And I hope to be back tomorrow with a repaired voice box. At least that's the hope. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. Bye for now.